And we are streaming to YouTube. Hello, world. I am excited to get back into Office Hours. If this is your first time here, Office Hours is your opportunity to ask me questions, get some answers. Feel free to join the Zoom. Let me share my screen actually. Desktop 2, share. Um, yeah, so if you go to kentcdots.com/office hours, you can learn more about this. There's a link to the Zoom in here. And yeah, you can join the Zoom and ask questions um, and I will do my best to give answers. And I don't always give good answers, probably, but I do my best to give the best answer I can. And I defer or I give priority to people who are actually in the Zoom call. But we also have this Discord channel. And we've queued up a number of questions because yeah, it's been a while. And I also updated my Discord bot. So I used to have it just tell people, hey, if you don't get an answer to this question, you can go ask in office hours. Kendall answer later. But now what it does is it still says that, but it also has the bot post to the office hours channel so that I can go and look at it during office hours. So should have more questions and stuff in the future, which will be fun. So um, okay, sweet. Taryn, you're the only one here in the Zoom, so I know you got a couple questions in here. Do you want me to just read through some of those, or do you want to talk through those?
Yeah, maybe it'd be better if I just talk through it because I wrote down the whole thing in case I wouldn't be there.
Uh,
Oh, yeah, maybe I should just pull it up really quickly.
yeah.
But so basically, the issue that I was coming across was I'm using MDX Bundler on my blog, and I am trying to conditionally include the Twitter widget script with the Remix utils. And I ran into this weird bug about, and the errors there about React Router, during the render caught a DOM exception. And I found a fix, but I don't know why it works. So I'm hoping we can figure out why. And um, the two fixes were not to conditionally include the Twitter widget script. And for anybody who's listening, the Twitter widget script, transforms the HTML into like that nice looking Twitter widget. Uh, yeah, so either I don't conditionally include that, or for whatever reason, if I wrap like the Twitter URL in the MDX in like a div or a block quote, it works perfectly fine. Like that works. I had to switch to a
Mm,
block quote because the div stopped working.
mm.
And I found that solution on Stack Overflow. So I'm not too sure why. Uh,
Yeah, that is interesting. Um, well, so first of all, um you're using the remark embedder
mhm.
with the transform O embed, and so that is going to transform what we're looking at here into like the block quote, whatever stuff that Twitter uses to then hydrate it to be whatever it needs to be. And so I'm guessing during that process, it yeah, I'm guessing that this error is actually coming from, is that coming from the Twitter widget code, or is where's the that showing up in the stack trace?
So let me pull it up really quickly. But it was interesting because if I did a server-side render, everything was fine. But if I try to do a client-side navigation is when everything broke.
Hmm.
So it's only client-side it broke. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
But let me pull this.
Um, yeah, that is interesting.
Yeah. So uh whatever I had to fix, I was happy enough with that because it worked. But
Yeah, so what's kind of um let's see. So you're conditionally including the Twitter widget JS file, like the script tag.
yes.
How do you do that? So the thing I'm thinking about is, um, especially like with client-side navigations, the widget doesn't know that you're mutating the DOM or unless they changed it, and like adding more Twitter widget or yeah, like Twitter embeds after the initial load. And so you typically have to use they've got like this global JavaScript object to say, hey, I want you to Twitterize this thing. And so unless you're doing that, I don't know how client-side transition works at all. Because you said that putting this inside of a block quote actually ends up working even for the client-side transition. So
Yeah.
that actually surprises me that that works, unless you are um, unless as part of that client-side transition, you at that time are adding the script tag. And if that's what's happening, then that's why it works. And so what you might try is to verify my expectation here is that you navigate to or you render the widget unconditionally or like you navigate to the place where the widget gets added and then you navigate to another page that has another like do a client-side navigation to another Twitter page, and that one probably won't Twitterize. And so that is going to be a challenge that you're going to have to face. Like I think most of the time you're going to need to have some client-side JavaScript. Like just you could put this in a component in a use effect that has location.key, but or something. I've done this various ways in the past. But anyway, you're going to need to imperatively say, hey, I updated the DOM. I need you to go and like handle all of these embeds, please. This is actually part of the reason why I wrote my own thing for Twitter. So the other reason is like the Twitter widget thing is really, really extra. Like there's a ton of stuff in there. I wanted to limit the amount of JavaScript I'm sending, but yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. You're probably gonna have to do some imperative stuff. Um, I would probably like most of the people who are going to your blog like are probably gonna be needing to load the widget anyway. So I'd probably just load the widget unconditionally, not worry about it. Um, and then yeah, just have some sort of component or something that handles like whenever the location changes or maybe you could put a mutation observer in there or something and just say hey like reinitialize the Twitter embeds on this page or something.
Yeah, I was trying to be nice to my users and not include any extra JS than
Yeah,
necessary. But yeah, that's fine.
I mean you could probably still make it conditional. um you could put the logic for the condition inside of the component and then in that same component is where you do the imperative stuff.
Yeah.
That's probably fine. The trick is knowing when to include that component. Um,
I actually do know when to include it,
oh,
hilariously, because I figured it out in my loader. So I'm thinking what I
hmm.
could do is I can just do like a use effect as much as I don't want. I don't want to, right? I wanted
Yeah,
whatever.
this is a situation you definitely are probably going to want to do that.
Yeah, that was the other way I was leaning. Okay, cool. I'll give that a go. Thanks, man.
Cool. Did you have a second one? I thought I
I
saw
did.
you.
I did.
Okay.
This one's more
Yeah.
of like thinking, talking out loud kind of thing.
Mm,
So for context setting, like at work, we're stuck using React 16. I even talked to Brooks at Epic Conf about like, hey, is it okay to use Remix v1 because I'm stuck using React 16? And it's like, well, why don't you guys get to React 18? And it's like a whole thing, right?
mm,
So now it's kind of like we've gotten to this point where I can actually hypothetically start using React 18, but the caveat is I have consuming applications that are using React 16 for this new component library that we're going to be crafting. So
mm.
I wanted to get your thoughts on like, hey, like, should I stick to using React 16 or is it okay to be like bundling React 18 with my component library and then not having React be like a peer dependency?
Yeah. So luckily most changes in React between 16, well, 17 was basically there were not many changes. It was just like we're just making it easier to do breaking changes in 18. So it's really just one major version breaking change collection that you're worried about. And honestly, like there were not a lot of breaking changes if I remember right. And most of the relevant breaking changes do not affect component libraries. Or at least any of the breaking changes would be able to make your components work with both without too much trouble. And so here's what I would suggest. I like the last thing you want to do is ship React 16 and React 18 in the same app. That is a non-starter. That will not work. And so you can't have your component library bundle with React 18. I mean, so to be clear, I should say you can do anything with JavaScript. And so like when I say that that won't work, no, that's a lie. It absolutely you could make it work with terrible hacks. But in any case, yeah, you don't want to do that. So yeah, you should be able to write a component library that works with both React 16 and 18 without like bending over backwards. Like there are some things you won't be able to use, like use ID and stuff. But we had versions of that back in the day that you can use, and yeah, that are like sort of polyfills for those. So yeah, what I would suggest and what I would do is like during development, you can use React 18, but then in your CI for this package,
Mhm.
you can have different jobs or like it's part of the matrix configuration, but you can have different jobs that install different versions of React and run all of your tests against different versions of React. And as a reference for this, whoops. The testing library does this with like a bunch of different versions of React. So let me take a look at well, we'll just look at the actions and you can look at the GitHub CI. But if we look at validate here, or yeah, just this one, sure. We've got 8 jobs. We've got 18 Canary experimental. This is Node version 18. And then this is React 18, Canary and experimental and latest. And then on Node 20, 18 Canary experimental latest. So the way that ends up looking, oh, here it is, workflow file, um, is you've got this matrix. Here's our versions of Node. Here's our versions of React. And then we set up with that Node version. And then man, it's crazy to look at this stuff. I made this forever ago. Like I put that emoji there. Anyway, yeah, so then we have this setup React where we do an install of that specific version of React. And so you could do the same thing. That way, like you can just develop on the latest version of React, but then you can add a little safeguard in CI that says, hey, let's just make sure that this works for older versions of React too. That is, and I would keep it as a pure dep.
Okay, can I ask another dumb question?
No dumb questions are allowed because they don't exist.
All right.
You can, yeah,
Um,
sure.
with the peer dep, is there I don't know the syntax for specifying like React 16 and above. Like the caret locks down the major version, right? But like how do I say like 16, 17, or 18?
I think no,
Or
this got blown away. There used to be a cool thing that NPM did. Now, like there's a Semver calculator somewhere. Oh, this is what it was, npmjs.com. Yeah, so this thing is kind of interesting. So this allows you to play around with version ranges. So here,
okay.
let's take a look at what we do in testing library and see what versions pop up for our version range. Here we are. Oh, that's interesting. It looks like we dropped support for, oh, yeah, that's right. We did drop support for that. But anyway, here's what we go React and then set that. Then we're
Oh,
going to
cool.
pick up 18, 18.1, 18.2. That's interesting. Kind of expected it to pick up like more than that. But anyway, it gives you some examples, like some pretty wild things that you can do. Um,
Oh,
let's
nice. Okay.
workshop app. Here we go. Oh, actually, boom, and it'll show you, oh, look, these are all the versions that will fit in that version range.
Oh, it's
Um,
super cool.
so anyway, coming back to something more practical. So you'd probably want something like 16. Well, honestly, you'd probably be good with just greater than or equal to 16.
Oh, dude. Nice. Thanks so
Yeah.
much. That's super, super,
So
super what I need.
some people want to like really lock this down and say, no, it's got to be 16 greater than, but we don't want it to be just greater than. It's got to also be less than 18 or like less than 19. We don't want to let people, use crazy versions of React with this. We want to test it first. I think that's baloney. If people are going to use crazy versions of React, they're opting for that. And this is just going to officially cover the like we know that it works with at least this lower bound version. If you want to use, later versions, that's your business. But anyway, people disagree with me on that, and I'm fine with that. People can disagree with me. But this is probably what I would do.
Awesome. Sweet. Thanks so much, man.
Yeah, for sure. Virgil, what is up? How are you?
Hello, Kent and Taran Villier. Hello, everyone. Thank you for offering your help and offering office hours every week. That's very thoughtful.
It is
So,
almost every week. Sometimes
yeah, yeah.
it's been like a month since or 2 months since my last one, but we're getting back into it. Happy to have you here. I'm guessing
Thank
you're
you.
talking
Yes,
about this Zod unsupported schema thing, right?
yes. So, to add a bit more context, yesterday I finally posted a tweet mentioning you and Zod maintainer and conform maintainer after struggling for days on this issue.
Mm.
So basically, I have a monorepo, and I'm using an Express adapter to run a remix with Nest.js. Nest.js is using CommonJS. And so I think, as all these kind of people pointed out, there is a collision and two versions of Zod being imported. And it triggers a weird error here, which is I cannot use the constraint key of the prop use form, which is a bit annoying because without that constraint, my schema does not fully validate. For instance, if I don't use the constraint and I set the schema with a number property, like age, for instance, it will trigger an error on the form input saying expected string received number. But with the
Okay, sorry.
constraint,
I'm gonna stop you right there really quick. So, did you figure out how to prevent multiple versions of Zod showing up in your application already?
no, I did not.
Okay, so
I
like
don't know how to do it.
any other problems that you're having are red herrings. The biggest problem is going to be how do you get multiple versions of Zod out? And once you solve that problem, then I'll bet you the rest of the problems just disappear. Um, and so yeah, do you know exactly why you're getting multiple versions of Zod and um how to prevent that from happening?
Uh, what is say I'm using ESM syntax, import Zod, import Z from Zod. This is importing an ESM Zod version
Um, Potentially, yeah. I'm not sure how Zod is configured. Um,
because on Nest.js, even though it compiles as a CJS, I am using the import syntax to import all the libraries, but it works. It just works.
okay, well, let's try this. I'm gonna pull this thing down, and we're gonna play around in node modules really quick. Because I think like monorepos are a pain. Are you using can I just use npm to install the dependencies in here?
Yes, yes, of
Okay,
course.
cool. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, so my guess is there's something going on where the Zod dependency is not getting hoisted properly, or something. Uh-oh. GitHub is not liking that. Huh, that's weird. If I do the full URL, it will be happier. Oh, that worked very fast. Okay, let me pull this over. And, oh, that was quick. Nice. So if we look at Zod, conveniently at the very bottom here, we've got
Yeah.
3.23.4. And actually, I don't think that there have been a lot of Zod releases recently anyway. So, but let's take a look at front end. Yeah, we don't have a node modules in there. Packages. We don't have a node modules in there either. So I'm kind of confused how you could end up with two
No,
versions of Zod.
it's the turbo repo, basically, or I think the mono repo. You can find the configuration on the package JSON right here on the base here. If you scroll down, you can see that we declare workspaces somewhere in this file.
Yeah.
Yes. And that means, as I found, it installs all dependencies on the main node module, and then
Yeah.
creates symlinks or something like that for the front end and for the shared library, which means that the shared library, which might be compiling ESM module, uses the same version of Zod than the front end, or at least it should.
Yeah. Okay, so I just noticed you've got your start script CDs into
Yeah,
backend, but we don't have this is
yeah,
like a subset.
no, it's I refactored this to not include the Nest.js backend because it's basically an Express adapter. So I
Okay.
just reproduced this error using basically if you do npm run dev, it will load other schema in the Remix app, a basic form, and it will trigger the error.
Okay.
So as you can see, it is not even because of Nest.js.
Yeah. Um,
But I am compiling the shared schema library into CommonJS. At least I tried in the tsconfig file.
uh, okay. So this shared library gets built. Okay. And that's fine. If we look at this, we've got our schema here. And I'm just looking for multiple versions of Zod. I'm not seeing multiple versions of Zod. This is just a require of Zod. Like it's not bundling Zod into it or anything. So I'm not seeing anything that is concerning in that way. Um, oh, hold on. Oh no, that's gonna just be the Vite stuff. Yeah, so hmm. Okay, here's what we're gonna do then. We're going to add um oh whoops. This is an error on the server side. That's why we're not able to look at that. So
It is weird
let's,
because since I have iteration errors on the real app, it displays for the first 2 seconds the full page
yeah,
as
that's because
printed
it's
on the
server
server.
rendered. It'll server render like this, and then when it
Yeah,
hydrates, um,
the error displays, yes.
actually it should not server render because the error is happening on the server. So I'm not sure how that would happen. But yeah, so let me take a look at the code. I don't think I'm going to find anything useful there, but we'll try anyway. Um, yeah, so all this is pretty normal stuff, just importing from Zod and all of that. And over here, if we look at our routes, we've got login. So where here is the error happening? Is it when we
It's
call?
using the constraint. If you comment out constraint, it will work.
Uh,
And the
Gotcha.
form will even work because we didn't add numbers or special characters like booleans.
Yeah. Okay. So this login schema coming from the shared package,
Yes.
um, somehow it is getting a different version of Zod. So let's add a debugger. Okay. I do not see. We'll go to shared network. Webpack. Oh man. Okay, here we go. Nope, don't want to do that. Auth. Um, I want to stop right here. There we go. Okay, so That is interesting. Hold on a second. I do not think that this will fix the problem, but I typically import Zod like this.
Yes. Yeah, me
Uh,
too.
I,
Yeah.
and I'm guessing like this doesn't fix the
But
problem.
we don't need to import that in this file because we are not using that on the front end. So we can even say uninstall it because we don't need it. But as it's a dependency of conform to ZOD that we are using, I've tried also importing the get_zone constraint from the shared library where we declare the schema, but it's not working either.
Yeah, okay, so just want to make doubly sure that that import isn't going to change anything. I do not think that it will. It doesn't really make sense that it would, but just to be super duper sure. I don't know why this isn't. Okay, let's start this thing over. Turn you off. I'm going to pull up this integrated terminal or the dev script. Here we go. Huh, that's funny. I don't know why that's not updated to my stuff, but this is just source map stuff anyway. Anyway, it should be fine. I
It's
do not
because
think that is the
you
problem.
rebuilt the library, but you did not change the import statement in the host file. You changed it in Remix, but not in the library.
I did a find and replace, so yeah, it changed
Okay,
there
oh
too.
yeah, okay.
So yeah, something's kind of weird about that. Here, let's just blow that away, just to be sure. Okay, great. And then we have this. Yeah, I wouldn't, man, I haven't used CommonJS in so long. Geez, I don't know why it would compile what I was, well, yeah, it's fine. That probably doesn't matter at all. But I am thrown off by this. What is going on? What is this? Why is it not updating that? The annoying thing is this probably isn't the problem at all. I just got distracted by something silly.
I've
Yeah.
tried also messing around with the vit config with optimized depth, excluding or including as a CGS interrupt the shared library. I think it is actually CGS interrupted in the vite config.
Yeah, like, so to be clear, the problem that you're having is probably related to Turbo, and just doing mono repos. If you were to put all of this together in just a single project, like if we moved the auth schema over to the app, then it would all work. There wouldn't be any problem. I'm like 100% confident of that. So the problem is when you split it up into a mono repo. And so I understand how useful mono repos are and can be really helpful, but this might be a good opportunity. This will not be your last problem with the mono repos. Like they just so many problems. And so you just like this might be a good opportunity to ask yourself, do I care enough about having a mono repo? But yeah, I just want to make sure that that is acknowledged and we're not like, oh, React and Conform and Zod are all just and Remix, they're all big piece of garbage. That's not the problem here. It's turbo repos that's the garbage. But
Okay.
yeah, and like they are solving a real problem. It's not like an invented problem. So I think it's a worthwhile thing to look into. Just like keep that in the back of your mind. Like maybe those tools are just not ready for what you're trying to do.
So
But
do you think with NPM workspaces without Turbo that would work?
100%. Well, I don't.
Okay.
Okay, let me back up. NPM workspaces, I don't know for sure. But maybe so the problem with NPM workspaces is now without Turbo, I use NX and I've been really happy with NX. But I also have had challenges just with monorepos in general. But yeah, if you don't use NX or Turbo repo, now you have to worry about coordinating builds and stuff like that, which is just a total nightmare. And so yeah, I would look into NX. I've been pretty happy with NX, but I haven't used Turbo repo, so I can't really tell you like what to expect from that. Okay, so something just occurred to me here that this import is coming from Vite depths. And I wonder if you're getting one that's coming from Vite depths and another that's coming from node module Zod. That actually seems to be the case, and that might be the reason is like a combination of Vite and mono repos maybe is the problem. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go in here. Oh, I think I know why my changes weren't being acknowledged as well. I think it's because of Vite. It has this cache thing. So we're gonna blow that away here in a second. But before we do, we're gonna dive into Zod and we'll go into lib. Or actually here, let's find out where's their main. So main and module. So index.js, index.mjs. It doesn't look like they have exports. Oh, they do. Okay. Um, yeah, so yep, index.js, index.mjs. So we'll come over here to index.js. We're going to add console.log zod index.js, and we'll add a debugger here as well. And then we'll go to this and
Yes,
MJS.
that's
Okay,
what
and
I did,
then,
and
sorry?
that is what I did when a conform creator Edmund suggested that on Discord, on Remix Discord a week ago. And yeah, I mean, both versions of Rosad are being called, in fact, but the .js is being called first.
This is still doing that. What the heck is that all about? Hey, whatever. Um, they are both on the server even. Yeah. Well, I suppose that checks out. Okay, so this is what we do next then. New error stack. Oh, here, and actually, let's just stick this in there. Just clean that up nice and tight. Okay, so then we come over to our neighbor here. Do the same thing, except this is just the regular JS. And then we're gonna delete the cache again. Oh, I know what's going on with the Vite stuff. There's the Vite cache. Let's get rid of you. Okay, great. So starting totally from fresh. Um, Aaron, well, yeah, start from here. Yeah, and we got undefined. What? What is that all about? Oh, hold on a second. Whoops.
Yeah, you made a typo on the stack. You
Oh, I
said
did?
strack, right,
Oh,
with an R.
haha. TypeScript wasn't there to save me that time.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Ah, and then this time we're gonna do node modules.cache and front end node modules. Okay, try it again. We'll figure this out. Don't worry. This is gonna be awesome.
Oh yeah, I know.
Now this is interesting. Why is this taking so? Oh, because I deleted the cache? I wouldn't expect that to be the problem. Huh. That is not expected. Here, let's also delete that. What the heck is going on now?
Because it's running on port.
Oh, 3001. Yeah. Whoops. I didn't exit the last one properly. I think that's what's going on. So now, okay, good. So the Zod MJS file is, yeah, this is the worst because it comes from the node loader or, yeah, so we're not actually going to be able to see. Okay, no. It's coming from Vite disk node chunks, yada, yada, yada. SSR import. Okay, that all looks good. And then this one is coming just from regular node. Interesting. Okay, so
Have you seen the PR fix by Colin, the creator of Zod? Because he said that it might be due not to Turbo Repo, but to remix slash Vite.
no, so what's going on here is Colin has just made a PR to make it so that having two instances of Zod isn't a problem. But we don't want to have two instances of Zod because it'll probably cause other issues.
Okay,
So
okay,
so like this is a band-aid solution that'll work out
okay,
just
yeah,
fine. But yeah, we
all
don't
right.
yeah, don't want to live this way. We don't have to. So the problem is that your Remix app and Conform, it's pulling Zod in from MJS, and then your auth schema is pulling Zod in from CommonJS. And so yeah, what you were saying earlier is exactly what's going on. That's happening on the server side. That's why the error is happening on the server. And so I think I know the solution. The
But
solution is you want to make sure that you're using a module. You want to build it as a module. And so when you go and import Zod from this package, it will import the MJS version, which means that your build needs to build not CommonJS, but ES yeah 22. I honestly don't know the difference between all those. But yeah, so now if we do this, I half expect this to work. It might not, but it's a different error. That's a good thing. Cannot find module. Yeah, I think I know why that is happening. Because this needs to have the file extension. Okay, that's good. All good. Everything's good. So here it is. This is a principle that I'm going to share with everybody right now. Move everything to ESM. Everything. Don't write any more CommonJS ever, and you will not have these interrupt problems. So that's it. Move your entire life over to ESM, and these module problems will go away. So to bring it back, I kind of trashed on turbo repo and mono repos in general. This is sort of that problem, but it's actually even bigger, just the CommonJS problem, ESM interrupt problem. But anyway, to recap, what was happening is you had one package over here that was a CommonJS module. So when it says, hey, I want to import Zod, this is living in a CommonJS world. And so it's like, well, let me go get the CommonJS file. And then you have your Remix app, which is a ESM app using Vite. And it's saying, oh, I want to go get Zod. And it says, oh, great, I'm in an ESM world. So I'm going to grab the ESM file. So you have the same version of Zod, just two separate files. Zod is duplicated in your node modules because of this ESM CommonJS stuff. So if you can just move everything over to ESM, then this problem goes away.
all right, thank you.
I had one problem with a pretty big problem with ESM. I'm not sure if you ever experienced it.
What is the problem?
So I haven't really been able to find a common pattern of when the problem arises, but I'm running ESM, so I have a test suite, kind of a custom test suite runner. And I run it in Node because all my code is obviously JS, and all the business logic runs with these. It's a separation between front end and like on my React components and the actual logic. That's the reason for the test suite. So um, sometimes I run the suite and I get this massive output from ESM. And if there's an error in my code, I don't know why, but it just pretty much dumps out a bunch of code from the ESM module. And sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't happen. I'm not sure. Have you ever seen that happen before?
That doesn't sound like an ESM problem. That sounds like a tool problem, like whatever tool you're using for testing.
It's a custom tool. Like it's
Oh,
literally like I wrote the tool. Yeah.
okay. Uh, well, without more context, I can't
Okay.
say what that could
Okay.
be.
That's fair. If I'm gonna try to find it, and then when it happens,
Yeah, see if you can figure out what's going on there. That
it'll
sounds
happen
weird.
again. Sure.
So Virgil, does this answer your question? Is this gonna get you unstuck?
I will try it first. Thank you. But just to add a bit more context, before changing the TS config to CommonJS on the shared library, it was, I think, ESM. And I think your fix that I didn't use was to add the .js path, because TypeScript did not say it was an error to use the .js.
Yeah,
But this
I
is the
I think
compiled
there's
code.
I think there's a way that you can make TypeScript preserve
Yes.
the extensions.
Yes,
Uh,
because as you've seen, you've just edited the compiled code, which might
yeah,
not be optimized for me. I don't want to update the compiled code every
yeah,
time
yeah,
I build.
100%. Yeah, I don't think that this is going to solve it. And actually, well, here let's see what happens. Let's go over here. We'll say this is not the compiled code, so we're going to import the TS file.
Yeah.
And yep, there we go. So then if I come over here, let's delete that, and we'll open a terminal, run the build. Okay, it doesn't like that. Oh, yeah, here we go. Huh, that's weird.
It says you need to add no emit or
Yeah,
no
what were my options? I lost it. Uh, Emit
no emit
declaration
or
only, no emit. Uh, oh, it can only be set when no emit or emit declaration. So, well,
can
that's
you
kind
not
of weird.
set no emit to true?
So here,
We don't need
no,
to.
because you do want to emit because you're using TypeScript to build. Okay, so we're gonna import, even though it's a TS file, we're gonna import JS. So I don't do this because I don't use TypeScript to compile my code. I use ESBuild or various other things. I don't use TypeScript to compile the code. So I don't have this particular problem. I can import the TS and then my build process switches it to a JS. But in any case, if we come over to, I think I lost that. There we go. Come over to packages shared and run the build again now. We can take a look at this and it will include the JS and that will work. Because in an ESM world, you need to include the file extension. Some people hate that. I hated it at first, and now I've like gotten over it. Probably the biggest problem with that is when you do like automatic imports with VS Code, you want to make sure that VS Code
Yes.
is configured to include the file extension, because otherwise this sort of thing will happen and you're like, ah, that's so annoying.
So you can configure VS Code to do it?
Yes, I'm pretty sure because I never worry about it anymore. It just
Okay.
works for me. So yeah, I don't remember how I did that, but I'm pretty sure it is possible.
All right. Okay. That was thank you for your time. That was
Yeah,
really helpful. And I think
good.
it's going to get me unstuck.
Yeah, all right. Good luck. Okay, awesome. Jonah, good to meet you.
Great to meet you, Kent. I've heard you speak a bunch and commented a couple times on your Twitter posts, or your X posts, but really cool to see you're doing this and actually able to get in here.
Yeah.
I'm always thinking about, so I mean, I'm a engineer, kind of started this platform. I'd say like I thought I was good at React. I could build pretty much anything I want, but it sometimes the architecture sucks and it gets pretty messy and hairbally, and I have a bunch of examples of that. But before I get there, I was able to reproduce my error.
Oh, okay. Do you want to
So
share
I
your
think you're
screen
gonna
so we
like
can
this.
take a look?
Yeah, I'd love to do that. So okay. Uh I'll go into Zoom here and I will just share. I'm running this in a terminal, so how do I do that? Advanced? No. Why can't I find? Oh, it's because I have to make this unmaximized. Sorry, this is okay. Back here, and that'll should give me my iTerm window. There we go. Okay. All right. So, this is what happens when I just run the suite. And
Can
obviously you're
you
gonna want,
increase the font size of that?
oh yeah, sure. I mean,
There
can
we
you
go.
see this okay?
Yep.
Okay. I'll just open up the file. Oh.
Oh, you're using NVim. Sorry, I can't help you. Just kidding.
How did you know that? Oh, I just typed it already.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, run tests. Okay, this is where it starts.
Okay.
Okay. So you can still see all of this, right?
Yep.
Okay. And I put this error statement in right here. If you see where my line
Uh-huh.
is, bad code here. Yeah, it's a little bit messy. I apologize. But
Oh, that's fine.
when I take this out, I'm gonna run the Suite program. So what Suite does essentially is just to show you, is it here? Suite will just run this run test script. That's just my command. Oh no. Okay, regardless, there is a error here that didn't happen a second ago. 261. What? Anyways, something's happening here. A second ago, this didn't happen. Maybe that's the reason. Okay, try again. Okay, this is embarrassing now because a second ago, like I ran it and everything was fine. Um, and now it's like saying there's errors. Okay.
If you go back to that run test file, there was like a missing parentheses or something.
Yeah, I was saying it was all the way down, but okay, so now it's running fine.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. So sweet, it's running fine. It's running all my tests. Um, there's a lot of verbose output, but you can see something's happening. It's working.
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna bring this. I should just close this file because I edited it on my other machine. That's why it started working again. So run tests. Okay. Should again be working. Okay. Now I'm gonna put in this line of code here on, let's just put it right after the imports. So let x equals to null dot prop. And I'm gonna run it again. And you could see, okay, obviously there's the error.
Mm-hmm.
And I get this massive dump.
Do you know what that code is? Like where that code is? Is that your code? Like, are you
No, that is
compiling stuff?
not my code. And if I get to the very top, eventually it's coming from ESM.
Like from
That's
Node?
what, that's what it says. Say again.
Like, is it coming from Node?
Yeah, I imagine. I can, why don't I just start the process again and then just get to the top here. So this is the top here.
Whoa,
Uh,
whoa, whoa. Uh, you have a package called ESM. Um, which is yeah,
oh,
not the Node ESM. This is you've got a package in your Node modules called ESM.
okay. So that I'm not supposed to be even using that.
No, no. That's an old package that was used back in like Node 6. Um,
Get out of here.
yeah, so if you go to your package JSON and set type to module, um, then and like uninstall that ESM package, you don't need that anymore. Um,
Wait, will I have to name everything though, like with file extensions?
no, no, no. Go to package.json.
Okay, wow, this is
And right under version or under private or whatever, add a property called type, and then module. And now native ESM works.
And I don't need to put in r-resm.
No, you don't need to do any of that. Oh yeah,
Okay.
I just noticed that on your line number 1. Yeah, just delete our ESM.
All right.
And it should work. That like you could have actually you're gonna have some problems with some of those imports because you need to have um yeah, you're requiring what? What?
I have a mix of require in here. I do.
Oh, yeah. That require module, that's gonna have to go away. Um unless you use Node 22. Node 22 just came out yesterday, and you are now able to require ESM modules, but you can't use, even with Node 22, you can't use require inside the same module that is using inside an ESM import. Require doesn't exist. You can make one. You can actually make a require function, but yeah. So if you want to go, so to take it all the way back, the garbage that you're looking at has nothing to do with native ESM. It has everything to do with that ESM package.
Right.
If you want to go native ESM, it's awesome. Welcome to the promised land. But it's going to be like there's going to be some migration pains there because the way that you were using ESM before is not the way that it actually
All
works.
right. Well, let's see how many. Okay. I don't want to waste your time. I'll have to. Is that migration pane just changing require to import?
Mostly, but then you also have to worry about file extensions because ESM requires that you include extensions
Ooh.
on those imports. Yeah, a lot of people hate that. I don't hate that. You get over
Like
it.
on a React. Oh, a React component won't matter, obviously, but on a like if I want to import reducer, I have to import reducer.js.
Yeah.
Do I have to do that? Will React complain when I do that? I guess
No. That is the spec for ESM anyway. Like if you tried to do this in the browser, you would need the extension as well.
Mhm.
So you get over it. It's fine. But yeah, like when you're importing a dependency, you do not need the extension. Like it's a whole thing. Like there's dependencies can in their package JSON they can have a configuration called exports, which will specify like the specific things that people can import as sub packages to their package. And for those, you typically don't need a file extension. But for any of the files that you're importing directly, yeah, you need a file extension. Yeah, and then no require anywhere. You can actually, in an ESM module, you can create a require function, and that will work. You can ask ChatGPT how to do it.
Okay.
But yeah, it is possible. But unless you're using Node, like once you set this type as module in the package JSON, all of the files in your project are now ESM files, excluding what's in Node modules. You can also have like subdirectories that have their own package JSON and change the type back over to common.js if you want to. So if you want to like migrate over time or something.
Okay.
But yeah.
Yeah, I think for now I'm gonna leave it because I have some development to do and I don't want to waste my
Yeah. This is
time.
like if you have a sizable project, this is not typically something you can just throw together really quickly. It takes plenty of time, and it's kind of annoying. It stinks. But once you get there, once you're 100% ESM, then so many problems go away. You'll have other problems like old packages that have things misconfigured are gonna be a big pain. Like if they have
Yeah.
fake ESM modules and stuff, like it can be a pain.
For now,
But
everything is working except that one dump. It's just like it pushes my if that happens, it pushes my output that I actually want to see way up in the terminal. And it's like,
mhm.
get
Yeah,
this done.
that is stupid. Yeah.
It's pretty
So
dumb. But
yeah.
I'm sure I could write a shell script to just take it away.
Yeah, if you want to, or you could just like spend the time getting to the promised land of native ESM and
This is what some people were telling me the other day when I was like complaining about having to import a bunch of things every time into React, my React components, like components that I reuse all the time. So like, oh yeah, just make a use a plugin in your package or in your web pack config. And I was like, oh, I'll try to do that. Then it turned out I was on create React app. And yeah, so they're probably grimacing just to hear that. Like I'm on all these old technologies. But the thing was when it was working, I was like, hey, I'm not changing it because it's
yeah.
working.
Well, and like on the note of or the idea of like, oh, I'm just importing these things everywhere. Um, for me, like if you I don't know about NVim, but if you're using a proper editor, it can handle those imports for you
Yeah, it should.
automatically.
It should.
And so like I don't think about that at all. And really as a principle, I like to try and keep things as native as possible because it means that I will have fewer challenges when migrating to whatever else I want to in the future. See, if you do a bunch of like special things with Webpack or even with Vite or whatever that are just special compiler things, they can save you a little bit of time, sure, but at the cost of um, having to uh, do all sorts of crazy gymnastics if you want to migrate off of them.
Yeah, it's like this thing where, okay, I have to import use state in every
Yeah.
single component. Like that is, it's just, so obviously that's done automatically for you.
No, that like so first of all, I don't care. Like that I have automatic imports, like it doesn't bother me one bit.
Right.
Um and then second of all, I'm using Remix and so I don't use state very often anyway. So I
Okay.
don't have the pain as much.
I have to definitely read more into Remix. Remix, I, I don't, I mean, you've probably written extensively about this, so it would even be, would it be a waste of time for you to go through it now?
Go through why Remix is so great.
Yeah.
I definitely don't have time to do that because it's
Okay.
extensive, but
It's
I will
just
give
so
you
good that there's just too, yeah, there's too much to,
yeah. I'll give you this blog post I wrote like,
okay.
oh my gosh,
I'll go
oh,
through it.
like 2.5 years ago. I can't believe it's been that long. But yeah, so I wrote this blog post titled "Why I Love Remix," that you can read up on. Like lo the points in there still matter a lot, or still pretty relevant. Another one that's kind of related is why I won't use Next.js, and
Hmm.
like implying that I use Remix instead. But you can read a little bit about that too. Um, but yeah, Remix is the bomb and it's awesome. And it takes all the stuff about React that people really like to complain about and makes it not so bad. And the cool thing is that since you're on Create React App, you should actually be able to move over to Vite without too much trouble.
Yeah.
And once you get over to Vite, then you're on like modern ecosystem and everything.
Yeah.
You also, I'm looking at your package JSON right now, and I'm looking for, oh, it just went blurry. Yeah, there we go. React Router. Are you using React Router in here?
No, because that's a single page app. I don't
Oh,
have no routes.
there's no routes. Okay, well, yeah, that's fine. That actually makes it even easier. So you could actually bring in React Router and start using the React Router fetchers for fetching your data and doing mutations and all of that stuff. And like that'll allow you probably to delete your Redux, your Immer, your like so many things like your JSON diff patch. I'll bet I'm not sure what you're using that for, but I'm guessing it's for when you're making requests and stuff. You probably get rid of that too.
No, I use that because so JSON diff patch, it helps me when there's a diff on the data, right? It's like, okay, so this data user data changed, so I want to auto save that. And not and there's a lot of things that there's a lot of things that are changing. It's a pretty complicated app. I
Mm,
mean, it's like it's a design application, almost like Figma in a
mm.
way, but like more simple. I can pull it up here. Can you see this?
No, I'm just seeing your terminal, but it's okay. I actually had to
Yeah.
get going here in a sec. I want to try and get a couple more questions before I go. So, anyway, yeah, get yourself over to Vite, and then look into using React Router for your like data fetching and stuff. And that like React Router is Remix, so they're basically the same thing. It's the only thing React Router doesn't have that Remix does is a Vite plugin that allows you to go SSR if you wanted to, which you could one day if that mattered to you. But yeah, anyway, hopefully that's helpful. And yeah, did you have another question? I think like it sounded like you were going to ask something else, and this just kind of came up.
Yeah, well, I've got lots of questions, but I mean, one thing that it's difficult in this app to manage events in a way that doesn't require me constantly going back and forth from using context to passing the events all the way up the tree and back to using context. I'm kind of like finding myself in this like sinusoidal back and forth between, and I think it's just over time, maybe I'm using the wrong abstractions. It's ended up leading to getting this kind of like really, really disgusting looking provider pyramid that I'm gonna want to get rid of. I think this is yeah, okay. So it looks something like this, where I've got all these providers and inside the providers, and to me, when I was looking at it was just kind of like the only way to get this to work. And the reason why is because I have these providers, a mouse focus provider or a mouse drag provider. When I drag the mouse, I don't want it to set state and change a bunch of different variables and have to re-render a bunch of different things. I was trying to really isolate things where, okay, if I was dragging the mouse, it would only hover the cover of the cell, which showed highlighted cell. It's a kind of like an Excel like design app. That makes sense. So I can drag over cells and that highlights a cell, things like that. It also grabs the mouse focus. So this is like this pyramid I like end up having, and it to me like it can't be right. There must be something better to do, or maybe I'm wondering, you know, how does this smell terrible? And are there architectures I can read about to help me solve?
Yeah, so I don't typically use context a lot anymore because I'm using Remix and that handles so much stuff for me. But your application is a really highly interactive one where you need to have like, I need to know where the mouse focus and where the mouse drag and where the Dropbox hover. Like I need to know this at a global in a global situation, and it's not something that's persisted to a server or anything. It's client-side state, so it needs to live in the client like this. But it also needs to be global because like your entire application needs to know where is this right now, right? So I'm looking at this and I'm seeing no problems whatsoever. This looks totally fine to me. A lot of people get kind of twisted up by having like multiple layers of providers, and I can understand where that comes from, but it's pretty naive, honestly. Not to insult you or anything, but like
Okay.
um,
Yeah.
it's not this is not a problem at all. Um, that said, like if you're kind of annoyed at how much indentation there is right here,
Yeah, I
which
can
I
refactor.
totally, yeah, you just like make a new component, do the providers in there, and then just render that one. And that's what I do actually. And in fact, in Epic React, I've got this bookshelf app, and I don't even have that many providers in there. But I have this thing called App Provider, or let's see, no, where is it? Where are my providers? Provider, yeah, no, it's not the auth provider. Hold on a second. Oh, context. There we go. I'll share this here in the Discord. Right here. This is what we're looking for. So it's the auth providers. I literally I have 3 providers and I just put them in this app providers component. And then what's cool about that is I can use that app providers component in my tests and have all of the providers available to all of my components. So I don't have to worry about mocking out context or anything. I just render the app providers with it using the wrapper config in React Testing Library. And then I, yeah, have like the actual providers instead of some mock version of those things. But yeah, if you wanted to reduce the amount of indentation, then that's
Yeah,
what I would
it's not.
do.
That's not.
But like I don't see any problem with this amount of providers at all for your application. Makes total
Okay.
sense. The one thing to keep in mind is that as each one of these providers has state changes, they're going to trigger re-renders to their consumers. A lot of people will think, and only to their consumers. Like a lot of people think that, oh, if the mouse drag provider gets a state update because the mouse is being dragged, I'm going to re-render my entire app, everything that is like nested under
Yeah,
the
no, no,
mouse.
that's the reason why I had to separate the providers because I did not want the stuff below it being re-rendered.
Yes, exactly. So for anybody watching and looking at that and being like, isn't that a performance problem? No, it's not.
Sure.
He's doing it exactly the way it should be. Um, and yeah, then the other thing is if you've got uh, well, yeah, like I have some more thoughts around the performance and stuff. I've got a whole performance workshop that you could actually go through yourself if you want to. You don't even need to get a license. It's open source. But I'll put that in here as well if you want to dive into that. But I'm guessing like it looks like you've kind of tuned this a little bit and you're not really having performance problems. You're just mostly worried about whether this is a good practice or not, and it's fine.
Yeah, I worried about the future. I just don't know what's gonna happen. And like it was a pain when I had to reuse some of the components and all these providers and then use context. I was doing all these actions, but I didn't have the proper default context,
Mm,
right? So it was undefined. And it's just like
yeah, yeah. Are you using TypeScript or is this all just JavaScript?
it's all JavaScript.
Yeah, okay. Well, so let me show you
This
one.
is something I was gonna ask. I was gonna ask that about my problem and why I'm doing this.
Yeah, so I'm gonna throw in another blog post here, how to use React context effectively. And you're
Okay,
doing like half of what I suggest in there, which is to
great.
make those provider components. The other half of what I suggest in there is to make a hook that consumes the context. I'm guessing you're probably actually doing that. That's a pretty natural thing to
Yeah, I'm
do.
doing it in a lot of places.
Yeah, and so then what you do from there is you just say, hey, if this context value doesn't exist, then throw an error that's like a useful error message.
Or yeah,
And
or like you can ignore some
yeah,
stuff.
because you're wrapping your entire application in these providers, I'm guessing the only time you have a situation where the provider value doesn't exist is in your testing.
No, it's not in my entire application. It's just one specific, it's a component. It's the grid.
Uh,
Entire application isn't the grid. That's just like one design mode of the application where
gotcha.
where it becomes interactive. But then they have to use that grid that they made and like they take it and they rearrange it in places. And so that component needs to be reused without the providers because I don't want the editing.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And so what do you do? Do you just raise the provider up higher or do you render?
Well, for that situation, I actually ended up just like finding the root. So I think it was this one here. And I took out this component and I actually am just using this component. And then when the providers aren't there, I just kind of ignore and I say like, you know, I just do something and say if it's not there, then don't do this action. Ignore it.
Mhm.
Don't event. Don't pass it
Yeah.
up.
Yeah, and
Which
that's perfectly fine too. It's all like what do you want the user experience to be? And that works just fine. So I don't see anything wrong with what you're
okay.
doing, except you're
Uh
not using TypeScript. That's
okay. Okay, so here's the issue. So I mean, I guess I started this project on like a much slower computer and I was having trouble just with like hot reloading with Create React App. I know things are a lot more advanced at this point, and that might change. Moved everything onto like a new computer. I was able to run things fast again, but even just running like TSC, like to me, I used to do stuff in Java, and every time I would run the code, it would compile everything, and I would have my type checking, and then I could run my tests. But that takes a really long time if I want to compile a project, even just one file with TSC or TSC note, it just takes way too long. And so there has to be some workaround. Um, and I'm sure that you've got that down.
yeah. Well, so in a Create React app, like React scripts has support for TypeScript built in. It's all using Webpack, and so it is going to be slow. TypeScript is that's going to make it a little bit slower too. And so, like, if you're worried about things being slow, then you should 100% be upgrading to Vite, because that is going to speed up so much. It will speed up your build, and VTest, which is the testing solution for Vite, that will speed up your tests like a lot.
So that would mean that I basically am running my tests in with a node. Like, remember that app I showed you before, node run test.js?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't run any React. My React component tests, I mean, this is gonna sound cowboyish, but I run them all in Selenium. Selenium. I don't use the React testing library or Jest or any of that. I just kind of write the user stories and it executes them. I know you're like, what is this guy doing?
No,
But
like that was a very common thing that people used to do.
fair, touche. The issue, yeah, but it ends up being that this thing here, so this suite runner, basically this, is a bunch of simple code that loads all the tests, and then because I'm using a Redux to develop, like all my logic is just in JS. There's no React attached to it, and so I can isolate the logic from my any component layer. So when I run it in Node, like it's fine, it runs, and I can just get the console output and build the application like that, kind of like TDD that way. But if I use TypeScript, the running of the test, just running Node to compile, and it just, even on a blank file, it took too long.
Yeah. So for that particular problem, I posted in the Discord a package called TSX. It stands for TypeScript Execute, and it runs your files with ESBuild, which is like a crazy fast TypeScript compiler. Well, it's not really like a compiler; it just like removes the type, so it doesn't do any type checking. But it's outrageously fast. And so if you wanted to, you'd literally install this package, and then on line 1, instead of Node, you'd say TSX, and it would all, like, now you can use TypeScript. So that takes care of that problem. What you're doing with Selenium is, like, if it's working, it's fine. Like, you've got a job to do, and you have to prioritize stuff. But if I were in your shoes, I would, like, the couple of things that I would do is I'd try to get over to Vite, get off of Create React App. You're gonna just the whole development experience is gonna be so much faster. You're gonna just be like, man, I was living in a cave and I didn't even know it. Like, it's so much better. And then like, and I would use VTest for all of those reducers and all those tests. I would just stick those in VTest. That's going to be much more fully featured than the custom thing that you've built. And then I would switch from Selenium to Playwright, which is a more actively developed and fully featured and faster testing framework for testing in the browser. So those would be like some of my target things that I would do when I don't have like product to ship.
Yeah, Playwright. I've looked at that. There were some issues before with Selenium where it was going slow, and it ended up being like a issue with it would end up being something. The Selenium is pretty fast. There's actually the reason why I ended up doing this. I don't know. I feel like there is a need to kind of, or in an ideal world, we could basically take our requirements and translate them directly into tests, right? And you have ChatGPT for that, I guess. But and if it's all linked up, but the way that I write the tests, although non-conventional, I don't need to put like, okay, it does this, and then write that's like a response function. I honestly want to get your thoughts on this. You're gonna okay, this is like a basic file. So it calls something. Okay, and I'll just go for a basic test where delete raw images. Okay, so this is the way it works. I basically just give it commands. Can you see this? And it's like a command object And then the equals is just the output. Like make sure that when I run that function, that's a getter function that gets information from my state and then just compares it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like lightweight in that sense.
But then like the problem, so this is cool. I don't really have a problem with the principle of what you're trying to go after. But I have a couple of problems with or things to think about. So that like all of these different commands that you have, um, there's a lot of global context that these require that I don't know as a new engineer coming into this project. And so now I have to like crawl around the code base to find what does start image uploads do? And what is the context that my test needs to be in for me to be able to actually call that? Um, and what's the syntax here? Or like when I get an error, is it a problem if 53 raw is not equal to undefined? Like maybe what does that even mean? And so anyway, there's a lot of context that's hidden. And then to top it all off, if I'm a new engineer that gets hired at your company and I start working with you on this code base, I'm going to look at this and I'm going to be like, well, this stinks because when I eventually leave this company, I'm going to have all of this knowledge on how to write these tests that will not be useful to me at all anywhere else. And so, like, what you've done is put together a testing framework, which is very interesting and cool. Like,
I'm not gonna be offended. Don't worry about it.
yeah, like it's cool that you've done this. The only way where I, as an engineer working on this project, don't feel like I've wasted a bunch of time is if the entire industry starts using this same thing, and I can go to another company and utilize this knowledge because this is a domain specific language that I'm learning if I'm writing these tests. And
Yeah.
if I can't use that knowledge anywhere else, then I feel like I've wasted a lot of time.
Wouldn't that be true if I was writing just like command line tests and
Mhm.
using any other test framework? I would have to dispatch information to my app, right? So if I wanted to run a user story which uploaded images and then deleted the images, I would need to know the API commands that
Yeah,
my
yeah.
front end would need anyways.
Yeah, for sure. Like at some point you're going to get to app specific stuff, but the more utilities that you can use that are shared across the industry, the more transferable that knowledge becomes. And the closer those utilities are to or to standards, not just web, but like wherever you're coding, the closer those are to industry standards, the more transferable that knowledge is as well. And so there's a lot of value in using standard tools from a knowledge transferability standpoint. And so, yeah, if I were in your
Get that.
position, like, or like, let's say that you decided you moved on to a new company and your company hired me and they said, okay, now you're gonna, now you're in charge of Jonah's project. Um, I would switch us over to V. Like, of course, like you're doing product development this whole time. Like you gotta ship stuff, but like I would find a way to prioritize switching over to Vite, switching over to Playwright, uh, upgrading to like the React router potentially. Like yours is just a single page. So, but I'm guessing you've got like user preferences and stuff like that. Those should be separate pages, but for you, I'll bet you they're a modal or something like that. Yeah, I know. See, those should be routes. And so
Not modal, but it's just a different component. Yeah.
yeah. So that should be a route. So you do need a router. And so I'd bring in a router. And like I
Why
would
should that
just
be a route?
so that the user can go directly to that page, so that they can hit the
Got it.
back button and it actually works.
Got it.
You know, for accessibility
Got
purposes,
it.
all that stuff.
Got it.
So yeah, and I would be getting rid of this stuff over time.
This testing framework.
Yeah, I would.
Oh, it's so good though. It's so good. The way that it runs when I run a test, like I don't think you have this in any other testing framework, right?
Uh,
If I as I run a test, oh, it's broken because of the thing we
yeah.
did. Sweet. No, I don't want that. I want so like there's things that you could do when you're running like one line execution that you lose if you are deciding to allow a test to contain a for loop. right? It's not so for convenience, yeah, like okay, there's a for loop, but things can be unpredictable in ways that are annoying if you don't just have explicit commands. And so like, okay, let's see what hopefully this will work now. Okay, so you can see as the code is executing, right? You can see like there's certain lines which say run green, that line passed. And if the line didn't pass, it would be red. And you could see, okay, where the line didn't pass. I mean, yes,
Yeah,
you get like nice little output messages, but in your console, for example, if you're running like an jest or whatever, or React testing library, but it wouldn't go to like, oh, this line. Oh, I guess it would kind of do that. This line
yeah.
failed.
So like, I don't know how long it's been since you used the testing frameworks that we have these days, but yeah, 100% you can have that with the modern testing frameworks that we have now. Um, and so yeah, I don't know, like just peek your head out a little bit and see what else is out there.
Yeah.
'Cause yeah, like you've got a product to build.
Yeah.
And like this is coming from the guy who like changed the testing ecosystem with testing library. Like I've been there. Like I know when I see a tool and I'm not satisfied with it and I'm like, this is garbage. I'm gonna make my own thing. I totally respect that. And if that's what you want to do, like more power to you 100%. It's awesome. But if you're like weighing the things that you can do with your time, like I've got to ship this feature or I've got to work on my testing framework, and the problems that you're solving are solved by other people in the open source world, and so you may as well just use those solutions, unless like maybe you try it out and you're like, actually, I still kind of like my thing better. I'm gonna keep going with it. Then that's awesome. Like keep up with it. I think it's great, and turn this into an industry standard. That's like how these things happen. Um, but yeah, I definitely would recommend spending a little time looking at like what the modern testing frameworks have to offer, because yeah, it can totally do that if that matters. I don't actually use that feature myself. It doesn't matter to me very much, but I know that people do, and there are ways to make that work. So
Like highlighting in the environment which as the line ran, yeah, I suppose, yeah, that would be pretty easy to do.
yeah, like the only I've seen it in WebStorm and VS Code. I'm sure NVim is NeoVim, right? Like you're using NeoVim. Yeah. So I'm sure NeoVim has the same sort of like somebody's built something, or you could just integrate with whatever like same thing that they're doing. But the benefit is now you don't have to worry about building all this stuff. Like when Shopify acquired Remix, Shopify had their Hydrogen app or Hydrogen framework that they were working on. And a big part of why Shopify acquired Remix is so that they could say, okay, we're going to take the hydrogen stuff. We're going to delete all of this stuff we have no business doing. We are done building build tools and all that stuff. We're just going to take the thing that makes us unique and build on top of a solid foundation of a more general framework. And so you can do the exact same thing. You can get rid of all the like extra stuff that you're doing. And you could even like, if you like the writing tests this way, you could build something that integrates with the more modern tools. If I mean, you're happy with Selenium, that's fine. But again, like the more
Modern I am, the better.
yeah, like the more industry standard you are, the better. Like I'm guessing that you are on a one-man team, is that right? Or do you have other
Yeah,
coworkers?
that's fair.
Yeah. See, and I can guess that because if you had another coworker, you'd probably be fighting with them all the time about this stuff. But you have a lot of freedom, and I've been there too, and it's awesome. I love it. But yeah, if I were in your shoes, I'd be looking at.
If you were on my team, you'd be fighting with me about this.
Yes, I would. Yeah, 100%. We'd be having discussions about this a lot.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, also, yeah, I guess like the great thing that I found about this is the reason I liked it also is when I initially tried Jest and React testing library, which I did try at the beginning. So
Hmm.
the issue was that I ran one test and it took like 8 seconds to run a hello world test.
Whoa,
And I
yikes.
retried that on other machines, and there was the same thing. And I'm not waiting 2 seconds to run any test.
Yeah, yeah. I'm with you. Like that's pretty outrageous. For me, the how long a test runs does matter. It's not the most important thing, but it does matter to me. Um, and I would have looked at that test and like asked around and be like, hey, is everybody experiencing this 8 seconds? Because I wasn't.
I asked. No one
Uh,
could solve it. I actually found a Stack Overflow post from a couple of years ago of someone asking that, and it turns out it was my post.
no.
Like from several years ago, I was like, oh my God, someone had this exact same problem as I'm having. And it was
That's so
me,
funny.
and still there was no issues to like I couldn't get it to be solved.
Well, you'll
Here,
be really happy with VTest. It is very fast. And on top of that, it like supports ESM and TypeScript out of the box without any weird
right.
stuff you've got to do, and it's still fast even with all of that. So yeah, come back and see if it can satisfy your needs now.
The V test.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
also I would recommend getting Prettier set up in if I took your spot, that would actually probably be the first thing I do. Day
prettier.
yeah, day one, I would get Prettier installed and I'd run Prettier across all the files instantly.
It's
Um,
prettier.js, right? Or just
uh,
prettier.
yeah, prettier.io is the
Okay.
website. This I mean, you seem like a man who's got opinions and you're not afraid to do a little extra work if it means that you can keep your opinions. You might not like the way that Prettier formats your code. Um, I used to be that way, and now I'm not, and I'm saving tons of time because I just let go of my opinions on the way I format my code.
Yeah,
And so
that I don't care that much about.
you don't care? Oh, good. Yeah. So yeah, get Prettier installed and stop formatting your code manually. It is a game changer. It is so great.
Stop coding Okay, will it integrate with NeoVim? Or do I
Yeah,
have
yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's everywhere.
Okay, and now what about the fact that I'm still using NeoVim? Do I have to move over to VS Code too?
No, no, like I know plenty of people who use NeoVim. I don't understand it, but it's fine. I don't have to understand it.
It's just the fact that I never have to use the mouse.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's Vim mode in VS Code that I've got a
Hmm.
buddy who uses that. I gave up on Vim mode a long time ago. I used Vim for a while.
Okay. Oh, and you actually moved to VS Code from Vim. Did you feel
Yeah.
like you mastered Vim?
I was pretty dang good at Vim.
Okay.
In fact, Vim just ruined me. It just destroyed me for anything else. Like I, for a long time, I felt like I was a handicap, or I had like my hands uh, tied or something in any other editor because Vim just like made me um, just have the Vim brain, I guess. And so I actually hate Vim for ruining me for those couple of years because I could only use Vim. But Vim, it's so not a proper editor. Like you have to build your own editor. And I was sick of that. And so I switched over to VS Code. Well, I switched to Atom and then I went to VS Code. And I stuck with Vim mode for a while because I was just so used to using, modal input and everything. But
Hmm.
eventually I just gave up and I'm just going to do the normal thing that people do. So,
And do you feel like that has actually, you said you were stuck because Vim was just so good, or you had Vim brain. Once you built everything in, it was like, oh, I'm so fast at everything. And then you didn't want to use the other way, but then eventually you said, I'm gonna give up. Did you
yeah, so like what it was I would see people using a proper editor and all of the like just little things that they could do and I'm like, "Oh yeah, Vim can totally do that." But I have to like either install or write a handful of plugins to make it do that, which is like part of the charm of Vim is that like you can make it do anything, but it's also like I got a job to do and I don't want to spend time futzing around with my editor. I want my editor to work and then I want to move on to my actual work. And so that's why I left Vim world for proper editor world.
fair?
But I've got plenty of friends who are using Vim, using NeoVim, and they're like super smart and all that. That's fine. I don't judge anybody for using NeoVim. It's just it's not my thing anymore.
Yeah, it's when I think so. The idea here is probably that I want to see multiple windows at once, right?
Mhm.
And the reason I want to see multiple windows at once is because I don't know what the types are of my objects.
Uh-huh. Yeah. No, that's fair. You can definitely use multiple windows at once in VS Code as well. Like they got split panes and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But yeah, TypeScript will solve some problems for you. And that's the thing, like when you're using NeoVim or Vim, you're like, oh, I need to use Prettier. Okay, I got to go find a plugin that integrates that. I
Right.
want to use ESLint. I want to use TypeScript. Like all of those, like the plugins exist and everything. But I just feel like the extension ecosystem in VS Code is just so much more rich, um, and like things just work. Um, and in large part because you can't do as much with that editor. Like with Vim, you can do anything, and so a plugin author has to think about, or maybe they don't, I guess. But like for things to work, you have to wire things together yourself. And like I can appreciate that. That's what React is. Like you have to wire stuff together yourself, and I like that about React. But I
Mhm.
just don't care enough about my editor to want to have that much control over everything. And so with VS Code, I just find that things typically just work, for the stuff that I think is important. And so maybe it comes down to our sensibilities and what we think are important. So if we worked together, I would not have any problem with you using Vim. I wouldn't even like bring it up. I might tease you a couple times, but like, but yeah, like that's not one of the things that we'd have a discussion over.
Right. We would be discussing. Well, I mean, if I was complaining about it, then you would say just use VS Code. And
Yeah,
then
yes, that's
I'm
true.
not discussing this with you. Use VS Code.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would be like, dude, I'm not gonna listen to you complaining until at all because you're just using
Ever.
a sub useful
Suboptimal.
editor.
Okay, fair. Let's see if I can even. I don't even think. Yeah, my main computer is so old. Like all my stuff is so old
Hmm.
that I can't even update. I can't even get. So my main Linux machine, I can't even get VS Code on it because it.
Oh, dang.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, see then like you're living under constraints and that's fine. Like we all have our own constraints. And so like I said, I don't judge you for using Vim. That's fine. I do think like as I watched you navigate around the different files of your app and stuff, I think that you would find VS Code to be a pretty dang productive boost to you. Because it is I find it's easier to navigate around the file system. And you've got like a ton of files. Like I saw your test, man. You got so many files in there. I think uh, even yeah, actually NeoVim also has like fuzzy finders and stuff like that. That would be something to look into.
yeah, when I'm writing my test, for example, I'm not sharing my screen anymore, but as I'm writing it, like if I put in a command, it gives me all of the commands that I've already used. So
mm.
I just reuse them like over and over with like a quick like, okay, I
Yeah,
think
when you're in flow, you're probably super fast. So
yeah,
uh,
that's yeah,
and that's the most important thing. Just like get in flow wherever you're at. So
however I can.
yeah. All right, Jonah, I'm going to see if I can grab a couple of these other questions before I go.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, thank you so much for coming. This has been a fun discussion.
Yeah, thank you. This has been awesome. And if I come up with some more interesting questions, I'll let you know. But short, very short. With respect to general architectures and things, would your default answer just be if I want to learn, just go to Remix?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay,
Yeah.
fair
And
enough.
and if you really want to dive in the deep end with Remix, like Remix has really great docs for getting started and everything. But yeah, epicweb.dev is the place to be if you want to really learn how to build full stack apps. So yeah,
Okay,
cool.
great to meet you, man.
Yeah, likewise, Jonah. See ya.
Okay, see ya.
Okay, so Mem answering this now. Okay, in the company I'm working at, our test setup is Enzyme. We're stuck with React 17. We have about 800 component test files. What would be a good strategy to migrate to RTL? I'm thinking we start with writing new tests with RTL, but I'm not sure how to migrate the rest of the tests. So here's the answer to this. You might not like this so much, but the answer is you delete the old ones. You if you were writing enzyme tests the way that everybody wrote enzyme tests, then they're not helpful anyway, because they won't allow you to refactor your code. And so anytime you change your code, you have to change the test anyway. So what is the test even doing? It's not protecting you, that's for sure. It's not protecting you from like making sure you don't break anything. It's just saying, oh, you changed the source code, therefore you also have to change the test. And like that just doesn't, that's not what tests are for. They're to make it so that you can change the source code and have the test tell you you didn't break anything. Now, of course, like there are changing requirements and stuff, and so you are going to need to change the tests, but yeah, that's a different thing altogether. So yeah, you've got 800 component test files. That's awesome. Delete them all. And maybe that makes you a little nervous, and that's fine. So delete them as you go. You can, delete one, then write the test to make up for it or whatever. But yeah, you're gonna be stuck on React 17 until those tests are gone. So just delete them all and start running RTL tests. The problem is there's no way to code mod this. Like because those tests were written so poorly because what Enzyme encouraged us all to do that it does not translate to React Testing Library because you cannot test that way with React Testing Library. I made it so that you couldn't do it because I created React Testing Library out of my frustration for all of the things that you can do that are bad with Enzyme. And so yeah, if you're very likely doing those bad things, it's like the way to do it with Enzyme. And so the only way out is to just delete them. Sorry, it's probably not the answer you were looking for. Let's see. I'm not sure what this is talking about. Oh, actually, don't worry about it anymore. In the latest version of Remix, there's a new feature called single fetch, which will serialize things like dates for you, serialize and deserialize things like dates for you. So you may not need these at all. And personally, I don't actually care too much about serialized stuff. Like it's just make it be JSON, it's fine. But anyway, if you're using Remix, probably use the Remix one. Okay, and I think we answered all of these. New here, planning on taking the course. Welcome. Here, answering this now. Yes, I'll just answer. You get a certificate for every workshop you finish. Sweet. Okay, so let me come back up because there were two questions that were asked. I'll see if I can answer them right now. When did the require user function in server? I thought about using this to do. Okay, so let's just answer these questions one by one. Prisma does not automatically batch your queries unless you put them in a transaction. They might in that case, but I'm still not sure. In fact, often Prisma will execute more than one query, SQL query for complex Prisma queries function calls you make. I'm not personally worried about this, especially in when using SQLite. Queries are typically very cheap, especially if you've indexed properly. Okay, and is my solution early optimization? Oops. Still not sure I understand. Um, uh, I probably wouldn't do. Um, I'm not sure I understand. Uh, I'm uh, I'm not too worried about this personally. I think your solution is fine. But I also wouldn't have been too. Um, in fact, I probably would have done similar um, in some scenarios. Okay. Um, um, I'm not 100% certain I know what your um, um, know that I follow what you're talking about. If you want to make a pull request to add a note, that might help me understand your struggle here. There's a link at the bottom of each instructions page to edit the instructions on GitHub. Okay, cool. Coming back here. Looking at the return types from Prisma, it appears that pet image blob is buffer type. But when I use this type hint prop in a subcomponent, I'm told it's incorrect. Any ideas? Pass the data from the loader. Okay, blob buffer. Oh, yeah. This is because a buffer, or this is because types coming out of use loader data are coming through JSON stringify because this is coming across the network. So in the UI, it's no longer a buffer. If you try to you'll want to turn it into a string or array of data. Or yeah, I think they understand. Good. All right, that takes care of those. And that's it. So extra long office hours today because I had a couple really great discussions. I also missed a couple weeks. Just to wrap things up, you can always give me a call and I will respond. I've got some issue with these images. I don't know what is going on here. Huh, that is kind of annoying. What is that? I got a CSP going on here or something? What is this? No, that is, oh wait, no, here we go. Oh, interesting. They probably changed their image transistor. Yeah, they probably changed this URL or something. I'll have to look at that. Anyway, yeah, so come over here, record your call in the browser, and we can have a conversation, and I will send my reply and it turns into a podcast episode. So anyway, if you have questions for me during the week, then you can ask there, or you can always come in here and drop it in here. I should be doing office hours next week as well. So thanks everybody for joining. We will see you